Hey guys, this is the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for April 7, 2023. We're going to be talking about NFL futures as well as NBA, MLB, and NHL futures. And I thought, like, who else could we have on but Quacky Takes with Tommy, one of the sharpest bettors I know. I've known Tommy for a long time, couple of decades now. Actually, it's kind of crazy how quickly that goes. But yeah, Tommy, it's been a while since we've had you on. How have you been?
Yeah, been great, man. Thanks so much for having me on. And I've got a lot. I'm excited to be back on. I've got a lot to cover here today. So I'm excited to see where you stand with some of these futures as well. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about them because I feel like when we agree on something in the NFL, like usually turns out to be right. We split a super contest entry that we're like 53rd or something like that, 51st.
Yeah, 52nd, I think.
I was right in between. Yeah. 52nd overall. So it was a pretty good entry. We got off to a hot start. We had a couple of like sluggish weeks in the middle of the season, and if it wasn't for those, we would have been, I think, near the top 10. So like I said, when we agree on something in the NFL, usually wins. And then you're going to bring up some sports I don't know. Like I definitely know NBA, but like with NHL and MLB, I'm kind of out of it. So I'm kind of curious to hear your top bets there because I'll gladly bet on them. But yeah, before we get to it, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. I am wearing a Walter Football hoodie. You are wearing a Walter Football shirt. So you can get one of those like by clicking the link in the description. So yeah, let's get right to it. So you're going to be talking about DraftKings odds, and I'm going to be referencing FanDuel here. I'm if you're watching on YouTube as opposed to listening on iTunes, I have the FanDuel screenshot up, but you're going to be talking about DraftKings odds, so we could kind of compare and contrast and see if we can get a better number between one of the books. Because I figure like most people can use one of these two books. So I don't know where you wanted to start. Like we're going to start with the NFL, obviously, because this is WalterFootball.com. But what pops out at you so far with the NFL?
Well, I was just telling Walter before the show started. One, I have a strong feeling that we're going to agree on. I actually had a dream last night that the Detroit Lions made it to the Super Bowl.
Love it.
And I wonder why. Obviously, it was on my mind because that's one of my favorite futures. I'm seeing them on DraftKings plus 850 to win the NFC and plus 2,500 to win the Super Bowl. I like both of those here. This reminds me of last year. What were they last? They finished 9-8, I believe. I know they're second in the division to the Vikings, and there's something about that Jamal Williams interview at the end of that game against the Packers, and he was like, "We're the Detroit Lions. We're put respect on our name." And it's like something about their season kind of reminded me of the 2017-2018 Eagles, where the year before I think the Eagles were 7-9, but I thought they were a team on the come up. And a lot of times that happens, where a team that kind of just misses the playoffs or maybe just sneaks in. I mean, look at the Eagles last year. They got one of the last seeds in the playoffs 2 seasons ago, and then they make the Super Bowl. I think the Lions could be that team. I mean, I think, I want to hear your thoughts. I know they added David Montgomery here from the Bears. But really, I mean, they finished 9-8. I really think they could have pretty easily been 11-6 last season, if maybe not a little bit better. They really got hosed a couple times, and just seeing their attitude, they love their coach. I really think this is a team on the come up, and I don't think that's really a secret anymore. Like given the odds compared to the rest of the teams in the league, but I really like both of these here, Walt. Lions to win the NFC and to win the Super Bowl. I think there's pretty good value here. What do you think?
Well, yeah, you said they're getting you're getting 25 to 1 on DraftKings. They're 21 to 1 on FanDuel, so DraftKings is the better number there. I actually bet the Lions earlier in the offseason at 33 to 1. I can't remember which book it was. It's on the site though. Yeah, there's a link on the homepage. But yeah, I mean, I love the Lions as well. I think you can make the case they're the best team in the NFC, which like it kind of sounds crazy because the Lions have been the doormat for so long. But yeah, I mean, you're right. They finished 9-8 last year. They had a lot of bad luck, a lot of bad injury luck to start the year. They began the year 1-6. They finished the year 8-2 One of their losses was to the Bills in a nail biter on Thanksgiving. The other loss, and by the way, Von Miller was still on the Bills by then. The other loss was when the Panthers ran this weird zone run offense that the Lions just not prepared for, and the Panthers ran for like 400 yards in that game. I don't think the Lions like were expecting that at all. Like those are their only two losses, and they crushed some of the playoff teams they battled. They destroyed the Jaguars, they destroyed the Giants, and they beat the Vikings by double digits. So like they
should have won that first game against the Vikings. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. They were up by double digits in the fourth quarter against the Vikings in that game. And Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift both went down with injuries. So if they win that game, they make the playoffs. And I think they really give the 49ers a run for their money. I'm not saying they would have beaten the Niners, but they would have been a lot closer to the Niners than the Seahawks were in that first playoff game. Because they had the offensive line to protect their quarterback against Nick Bosa and everyone, and their defense was better than Seattle's. Their defense really picked up at the end of the year, and they added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. Like these are really good defensive backs. They have the 6th pick, they have the 18th pick. They can get 2 really good players, maybe 1 superstar even. So the Lions look great to me, and the Eagles and Niners have taken a little step backward. This is not a tough conference. Like if the Lions were in the AFC, would not like them at this number, but in the NFC, there's such an easier path for them to get there. So I love the Lions. Still 25-1 is a really good number.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so too. And really, I do think the Eagles are going to be strong too, and I completely agree that the NFC is very weak, and especially their division. I mean, Rodgers is going to be gone from Green Bay. Who knows what we're going to get from Jordan Love, though. As a Packers fan, I am holding on hope, but not too much. And then the Vikings. I mean, how many videos did I call them frauds? Last year, and they got exposed. Early on. And I still think the Vikings will be competitive, but I mean, I think they have a good shot to win the division. I probably should have checked that too. I guess I still could, but I really think they have a good shot to win that division. And like I said, I had in the dream that I had, it ended before the game happened. But so I guess with that we can say that to win the NFC is definitely the safe bet. Super Bowl maybe too, but.
Well, yeah, you can always hedge too. I know Jacob and I had the Lions at or not the Lions. We had the Jaguars at 120-1 last year, and we were able to hedge them with the Chiefs. And that Chiefs hedge came in handy for the Super Bowl because that was also a built-in hedge for the Eagles. That the Eagles and Jaguars were 2 of our bigger bets last year. Does anything else stand out to you here? The Lions, I agree. The Lions were my favorite pick. This number here by the Jets, I don't know what you have on DraftKings, but 16-1 is a lot lower than it was earlier in the offseason. I think it was 28-1 before anyone knew that Aaron Rodgers would get there, but it's plummeted. We assume Rodgers is going to go to New York, though.
Right. I've got here on DraftKings, I'm looking at it right now, 14-1. Okay. The Jets are 14-1 to win the Super Bowl, and then 9-1 to win the AFC. It's kind of interesting. I mean, isn't this so funny how, remember what happened when Brett Favre went to the Jets? I'm not saying that it's going to be a carbon copy, but hey, he went late in his career. He still had some gas left in the tank when Favre went there, just like Rodgers does. I personally think as a quarterback, I think Rodgers is the better quarterback. That's just my opinion. But remember I can't remember. They started out the Jets that one year they had Favre at least 6-2, I want to say. And they ended up missing the playoffs.
Favre got hurt toward the end, and the one difference there is that Aaron Rodgers already knows the offense. Nathaniel Hackett's the offense coordinator for the Jets, so there's no transition period. Even if Rodgers is traded late, he doesn't need much time. Okay, maybe he needs some chemistry with Garrett Wilson, although Wilson just an amazing player. Maybe he needs some chemistry with the other guys, but I think by week 2, week 3, he's going to be ready to go. So I like the scenario better than the Favre situation.
I definitely do too. I guess the only thing, look, you put Aaron Rodgers on your team, you're automatically going to be better. There's no question about that. He is of course, playing in a division where it's going to be kind of funny to say this, we're arguably the worst team in that division now. If Rodgers is on the Jets, is now the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say that. I mean, think of all the years like Brady was on there where he had to play like the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets when they were just in the basement like constantly. So it's just kind of that's how it goes in sports. It's funny, but so he will be in a tougher division. But I definitely think they're a playoff team. If Rodgers, I mean, I think they could be a playoff team. Well, I don't know about if Zach Wilson is at the helm, but they've got the pieces, and you could, with that Zach Wilson press conference last season, you could see that the just on the face of the players how irritated they were. They knew, and to me, it's like they knew that they've got talent, and they do, other than at quarterback. So I mean, you throw him in there. I mean, I like those numbers too. And obviously, if you think Rodgers is going to go in there, lock it in now because it's going to change drastically if he does get traded.
Yeah, it's already fallen. I feel like all the value was gone, but even still, like this reminds me of Tampa when Tom Brady went there ahead of the 2020 season. Jacob was pretty genius with this. He got the Buccaneers. I think it was 50-1. Maybe he'll correct me on the next show if it was different, but I think he got him at 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. And then Brady went there and it plummeted to like 12-1. And I still bet them at 12-1. It ended up being the right bet, but I really wish I had 50-1.
That's so awesome. And you want to know something funny? Because that year, because remember the season before, Jameis Winston, what did they could have been like 11-5. Winston had like 30 interceptions, and they still like had a chance to, like they I think they went like 9-7. Maybe not, but like they were right. And I thought
I think they were 7-9, but they lost a lot of one-score games. I think that's what it was.
I think you're exactly right. But anyhow, my one of my best friends, Lou, he did the same thing literally like 5 days before, because he's a Bucks fan. He's from Tampa. Like literally like 5 days before Brady was traded. I can't even remember how much he put on it, but then I just remember he texted me in all caps. He's like, "Oh my God, Tom." And you want to know what's funny? Before that happened, he bet the Bucks to win the division, the NFC, and the Super Bowl. And the only one that didn't come through was the division. Interestingly enough, because remember the Saints won the division. But I think Lou won like at least 1,500. So Lou, give you a nod. That was pretty awesome. So, and I agree. I think it is a similar situation, but like you said, the AFC is very tough. So, but I still like those numbers. Especially if 9-1 to win the AFC, and you've got a very talented team in Aaron Rodgers. I think that's pretty good.
The Jets last year, this is the last thing we'll mention about the Jets. They were 7-10 last year. Do you know off the top of your head? I just looked this up, so don't feel bad if you don't know this number. Do you know how many one-score games they lost last year?
I'm going to say 5.
Close, 6.
Okay.
So do you think like Aaron Rodgers, like going from Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco or Mike White to Aaron Rodgers could flip that? The 6 losses to 6 wins. Like suddenly that's 13 and 4 instead of 7-10. So even still, like even at 16-1, I think the Jets are a fine bet. Not as great as they were at 28-1, but still, like if it's the winner, it's the winner. And I think the Jets could get there. Do you like, or I should say, like, what else is really standing out to you for NFL futures?
Yeah, this is one that I want to get your opinion on it, because similar, kind of similar to the Lions, where this is a team on the come up. I really like the Jacksonville Jaguars again, and not just because I live in Jacksonville now, but you look at Trevor Lawrence's first 1.5 seasons. I mean, like, but coming into the NFL draft, he was maybe the greatest quarterback to ever be available. They said, and I knew this last season he was going to get better, because I don't know that anyone could have done well in that environment with Urban Meyer. God, what a freaking joke. But that's neither here nor there. But, and they started off slow last season. He had a lot of new pieces, at receiver. I mean, Kirk had a fine season, came on. ETN really came on strong at the end of the season too. They've got a lot of great pieces. And I think they have, especially after that great playoff win. I mean, that what a comeback, obviously. And then they gave the Chiefs a very good game in that divisional round. I think they're a team on the come up. I think Lawrence is only going to get better. So I see them at 14 plus 1,400, so 14-1 to win the AFC, and they have longer odds to win the Super Bowl than the Lions at plus 2,800. So again, I'm not saying that this is something that obviously will. I really like. I think there's value here, and I'm interested to know what you think.
Yeah, they're 25-1 to FanDuel, so you got the better number over there at DraftKings. I think it's a fine bet. I'm not in love with it. They lost their left tackle Jawan Taylor this offseason, or the right tackle Jawan Taylor this offseason. They didn't really add anything in free agency. They had some holes on defense. So like those are some issues. But then again, they play in such a bad division. I know it's the AFC, but still, they play in a terrible division. I can't really see any of the other teams hanging with them at all. The Titans got a lot worse, and the Colts are rebuilding, and the Texans are the Texans. They may not even draft a quarterback, apparently, according to Peter King. So I wrote about. It's funny because I wrote about that in my April Fool's mock, how the Texans will pass on quarterbacks, and it actually may end up coming true. It's just so stupid. Anyway, the Jaguars have an easy path to the playoffs, and once you get there, you can hedge. I wouldn't hedge in the first round, but like if they win the first round playoff game and they'll have a home game, you can hedge your 28-1 bet. So I like that bet. I don't love it. I do like it though. I just wish like we were getting a little bit more value. Like I wish this was like 35-1. I guess this might just be sticker shock because they were 120-1 last year, and it just felt like it feels like all the value is gone. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's still a good number.
I mean, I think it's I think they're going to be a little bit better. I think they're going to they have a chance to be even better. I know you mentioned they lost some pieces there at left tackle, and but like you said with the division, and if they get some favorable matchups, some more favorable matchups, it is a great position to hedge. One more I've got for you, and you're probably going to laugh. I'm not saying I'm going to take this, but I want to know what you think. Okay, the Denver Broncos 20-1 to win the AFC. This is interesting. 20-1 to win the AFC and 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. Now, hear me out. They played a lot differently once Hackett got fired. Jerry Jeudy was saying nobody works harder than Russell Wilson. Obviously they had maybe one of the. They fell so far below expectations last season. More than any team I can think of off the top of my head in recent history. Maybe there's another, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But once Hackett was gone, it was like they seemed to play a little bit better. And they've got the defense we watched. Remember that 11-10 San Francisco game? Like we watched their defense play. Oh yeah, we just sweat that one out too.
That's so brutal.
Yeah, but we've seen the defense play well, even in that game against the Colts. That God, that was an interesting game too. But we saw the defense play well. Russell Wilson, we know he's, maybe he's not himself anymore. He definitely had a down year. It goes without saying. But I think they have the pieces. They played better after, Hackett was gone. Do you think there's any value there is my question.
So, wait, you have them at 25-1 to win the Super Bowl on DraftKings, even though they're 20-1 to win the AFC?
Yeah, let me make sure that I didn't see that wrong. Yeah,
that's so weird.
20-1 to win the conference, to win the AFC. And
that makes sense. Like, why would it be 25 to win the Super Bowl? Like, just bet 20-1. Like, it's not much of a difference.
Yeah. Now, did I look at the wrong thing? Let me see here. Yeah, well, and 25. That's really strange. I'm looking at it right now. 25-1 to win the Super Bowl and 20-1 to win the conference.
I don't understand that. They're 35-1 on FanDuel. So there's that's a substantial difference.
That's a mistake.
It's got to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, we're actually rebooting our podcast, by the way, here soon. Nice. But Nick has been telling me for a while. He's like, there's a talent shortage in these. I don't think that's for those in the know. That's not that much of a secret. But get these sports books. Sometimes I would see like like all, especially like on alt lines, it's like -3 and like -4 or something are the same odds. It's like, wonder which one I'm going to take, like it's so I think that's really strange too. And I mean, I typed it out here, but I just am kind of noticing right now. It's like, yeah, I mean, obviously, I would just take the conference there, but they play in a really tough division. The obviously the Chiefs. I mean, enough said there. And then the Superchargers are probably going to be decent. I would think, though they're a team that I think should be a lot better than they are. But that's a topic for another day. But I wanted to see what you thought of those.
Well, with Denver at 35-1, it's definitely appealing. Now, the one negative is like the elephant in the room is the Chiefs. But like if the Chiefs have a down year, you never know what can happen. They just won the Super Bowl. I'm sure they'll be high off that. Like they may not like work as hard. Obviously, Mahomes will, but like some of their like other pieces may not be as focused. So I wouldn't bet the Chiefs to win again. Unless they got like a really good number on it, and 6-1 right now, it doesn't seem that way. But Denver has upside for sure, because last year you mentioned Hackett. That's one of the two reasons why Russell Wilson was terrible, or at least two. The other reason was the offensive line was so dreadful. They're getting Garrett Bowles back, their left tackle's excellent player. He was out last year. They signed Mike McGlinchey over from the 49ers, like a tier 2 right tackle, like really good player. And then they signed Ben Powers from the Ravens, who's a really good guard. So they added, they basically are going to have 3 upgrades on the offensive line this year, like 3 really good players. So that's going to make them a lot better. You're going to have Cortland Sutton another year removed from coming off that torn ACL. Jerry Jeudy exploded at the end of last year. They have Tim Patrick, who is their number 3 receiver, coming off a torn ACL. So he's going to be back. Greg Dulcich, the tight end, he's going to be second year. So he's going to have some experience. They signed Samaje Perine, which may not sound like too exciting, but I think he's going to be a lot better than what they had last year after Javonte Williams went down. Like they had nothing at running back. Like they tried it out Latavius Murray for some games, and he had like 1 or 2 games that were good, and then he just fell off because he's like a billion years old. So like they're going to have better play at almost every position. So I like this team a lot. I just wonder, like I said, concerns the Chiefs because they have to get past them. And also maybe Wilson is like kind of done. Like that's always a possibility, but there's reason to believe that he's going to bounce back. And I think we saw glimpses of it, in the 2 games against the Chiefs at the end of the year, especially the first one. He did play a lot better. Well, we can ignore that Rams game on Christmas, but otherwise, like he did play very well at the end of the year.
That was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. I think, if I was going to take that, obviously, what like we were discussing, if I was going to do it on DraftKings, I would definitely take the AFC at 20-1 there. But switching gears, I had a question for you. We had kind of talked about this last time we hung out. But is there an NFL team that you like the value on as things stand now? For a future where you see that team being a possible landing spot for Lamar Jackson?
I think the Colts are definitely a possibility for Lamar Jackson. They're the one team that hasn't said no to the trade. And it's funny you bring that up because I was going to ask you if you liked any super long shots to win the Super Bowl. And I'm looking at the Colts, they're 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. If they, that bet is going to be dead if Lamar Jackson doesn't go there.
Right.
But if he does, suddenly you have Lamar Jackson, you have Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. Offensive line is not as good as it was in years past, but it's still like I think it's still okay. And then they have Shaq Leonard, formerly known as Darius Leonard, coming back from injury. He barely played last year, so having him back on the field, presumably, it's going to make that defense a lot better. So if they get Jackson, I think suddenly like the Colts look really good, especially at 100-1. That's the best value on the board as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. What about a team? You're asking about long shots. I see the Steelers at 50-1 to win. To win the Super Bowl. Let me see what they are to win the conference. This is on DraftKings.
Well, they're 60-1 to win the Super Bowl on FanDuel.
This is interesting. So the Steelers and Broncos are both 20-1 to win the AFC, yet the Steelers are 50-1 to win the Super Bowl, and the Broncos are 25-1.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's got to be a mistake. 20. I don't think 20-1 is really enough for me. I mean, with the Steelers, but you get it. We got another year. Pickett's got 1 year under his belt now. I mean, as long as TJ Watt stays healthy, we saw last season, the difference it makes when he's on the field versus when he's not. So, but now that I that just popped in my head. Now I'm looking at 20-1. It's not terribly enticing to me.
Well, 60-1 sounds like pretty decent, I think. If you're looking at that range, outside of the Colts 100-1, I think you can make the case that they're one of the two best long shots to win the Super Bowl. I do like them a lot. You mentioned TJ Watt needing to be on the field. Like we did very well betting the Steelers late in the year because we knew TJ Watt was coming back and he would make a huge difference. Like he took their pass defense from 30th to 6th. Like it's insane. They were 8-2 when he was on the field last year. Wow. Now it's crazy how it was like night and day with him. So if he can stay healthy the whole year, I think they definitely have a chance to make the playoffs. And if you get a 60-1 team in the playoffs, like those are amazing hedging opportunities. I talked about how if the Jaguars got in at 25-1, you'd have a good hedging opportunity. Like 60-1 is even better. And you make a good point. Like Kenny Pickett's going to have more experience. I think Najee Harris is going to have a better year. They signed Isaac Seumalo, one of the better guards in the NFL. So their offensive line is going to be better. Like that's been a big issue for them. Their offensive line, it's going to be a lot better. Now they have some holes on defense. Like cornerback is a problem, which is kind of can be mitigated with the pass rush. But at 17, I think they're going to get a really good cornerback, so they can fill that need. I always like Tomlin. I think he's an excellent coach. Never had a losing season. So 60-1, I think is a really good value for the Steelers.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, especially especially if Lamar Jackson goes to another. I mean, really, who's their competition in the division? I mean, obviously the Bengals, but I mean the Browns. Who knows? I mean, we're gonna see a full season with Watson, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I feel like even without Watson for all that time last year, I think the Browns should have been a lot better than they were. Just one idiot's opinion. But the Ravens are, without Jackson, that's obviously if he goes, that's going to be a huge hole to fill. So, I agree that there would be some good hedging opportunities there at those long odds, and I would obviously put it in. You said it was 60-1, right? Yes, 50-1 on DraftKings, 60-1 on FanDuel. So yeah, I would do it on FanDuel.
Let me ask you about one more long shot, and then I'll talk about one hedge, and then we could move on to NBA. What is Atlanta on DraftKings?
How did I know this was going to come up? 75-1.
See, that's good. They're 60-1 on FanDuel, and that kind of piqued my interest. 75-1, obviously a lot better.
So bad,
right? That's the big thing. The NFC South is the worst division I think I've ever seen. Like we've had some stinker divisions for sure. We had some under 500 teams make the playoffs. Like this might be the all-time worst because like suddenly you had the Buccaneers, who are the best team. They lost Tom Brady and their left tackle. So like I feel like they have a chance to be the worst team in the NFL. The Saints are a mediocre team. They're okay. They might win the division. Carolina is I think a little bit worse than New Orleans. But then you have Atlanta, and there are just a lot of question marks here. And like I just ask myself, like, what if Desmond Ridder turns out to be really good in the second year? Like, what if Tyler Algier is, continues to run very well? Like, what if Drake London has a huge second season? Like, what if Kyle Pitts can finally stay healthy? And then you had the pass rush, which is bottom at the very bottom for 2 consecutive years in pressure rate. That's not going to be the case anymore because they got Calais Campbell. So I think there's some upside here with Atlanta. Like maybe you could say like this is a long shot. They'll just get to the playoffs and they'll lose right away. I just think that they have an opportunity to really make to have a chance to go far. Like they also, by the way, they also signed Jesse Bates, like one of the better young safeties in the NFL. David Onyemata as well at defensive tackle. Like they added a lot of really good players. So this team, and I think this team is usually like coached pretty well. Like I think like last year they kind of overachieved a little bit. I know they had some like fluky results early on, but remember, like they were 6-0 against the spread. And I think, like I said, that was a little fluky, but still, I think some of that was good coaching. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll tell you what, they definitely exceeded my expectations. You know, I had very low expectation, and again, not that they were great, but they did better last season than I thought they were. I see them at 28-1 to win the conference. Real quick trivia, Walt, who is the only, at least to my knowledge, who is the only playoff team with a losing record to win a playoff game?
Was it the Seahawks, the Marshawn Lynch game, right?
You got it. The 2010-2011 Seahawks. You know what? I remember that because they beat the Saints, the defending champions, and I was glad. That was your Green Bay won the Super Bowl. So that's right. I was like, I was very glad that they won, and we didn't end up having to play the Saints at some point. But yeah, but that, you know, that division is really bad. I mean, if they get the 4 seed, I mean, which, you know, they in all likelihood will. I mean, who are they going to play? They might play a team like the Seahawks or something. You know, I mean, maybe it won't be them, but then again,
my best guesses would be Dallas, the Giants, Vikings, or Seahawks.
Well, I think too, maybe the Lions. You think if the Vikings won the division, then the Lions could be the 5 seed, and then that would be trouble for them. I mean,
well, I think the Lions will win the division, so I think the Vikings would get the wild card. So it's whoever the top wild card team is. But there might not, like, a quote unquote top wild card team in the NFC is not nearly as good as like the top wild card team in the AFC. Like the top wild card in the AFC might be the Jets. Or the Steelers, who we like a lot, or the Broncos, who we just talked about, or the Chargers. Like, it's amazing how much better the AFC is. That's why I like, you know, this. We talked about how the Steelers and Falcons are kind of similarly priced. Even though the Steelers are better than the Falcons, I like the Falcons better as a value because of the conference they're in.
Yeah, I definitely do too. And, you know, if the Falcons played a team, you know, let's say it was a team similar to this past season's Giants or this past season's Vikings, I mean, I think that could be a close game, you know, in Atlanta. You know, obviously anything could happen, and, you know, I'm not saying they would definitely win, but they would have a shot, I think. So yeah, I mean, I think there's decent hedging opportunities too. And then, but I think they're out of the like running pretty much to get Lamar Jackson, right?
Yeah, they said they're not going to, so which was kind of disappointing. I actually bet Atlanta earlier because I thought there was a chance they're going to get Lamar Jackson. So I'm really hoping that my pick here comes to fruition. A little bit. Before we move on to another sport, something I like to do, Jacob likes the strategy as well, is like betting one of the favorites as a hedge, like getting them now, because, you know, for example, like the Chiefs the Chiefs are a bad example because people were a little bit down on them last year. They were 12-1. Like, let's say, for example, you bet a team, one of the favorites at 9-1. Let's say the Bengals, for example, 9-1. Because you think they're the best team in the NFL. By the time you get to the playoffs, the Bengals will be like 3-1 or 3.5-1. So you're going to get better value now, even though 9-1 doesn't sound good. So I like to bet one of these teams as a hedge if I think they're the best. So I wonder, I'm just kind of curious which team you think would be the best hedge. I'm going to read off 5, and maybe the lines are a little bit different on DraftKings. So you have the Chiefs at 6-1, and you have the Eagles, Bills, Bengals, and 49ers all at 9-1. Like, which of those do you like the best?
Well, I'll start by saying you're definitely getting better odds there on FanDuel. Chiefs are 6-1 here. 49ers are 7-1. Eagles are 7.5-1. Bengals and Bills 8.5-1.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So if you're looking to do one of these and you're deciding between the two, definitely choose FanDuel there. If you're doing it in the near future, I like the Bills here in this spot. I mean, I definitely have a soft spot for the Bengals, but it's like they're the team. I mean, they've been, especially last season, they were a heavy favorite. You know, everyone and their mom was all over the Bills. And even the season before, they had high expectations. I could see this now the Chiefs are on the radar. Now the 49ers are going to be back on the radar. I guess Purdy's going to be the guy. People are going to now all of a sudden, especially if Aaron, I love to take teams and my strategy behind this. I don't know if you even call it a strategy, is I love to take teams that we know are good that nobody's really talking about. Now, all of a sudden especially if Rodgers goes to the Jets, which is probably pretty likely. What are they going to be talking about in that division? They're going to be talking about the Jets. They're not. I think the Bills. I won't say on the back burner, but I don't think they're going to be like the headline. The same thing. Remember when Peyton Manning finally won his first Super Bowl with the Colts that year? They were kind of. They were still very good, of course, but they're flying under the radar more than they had in previous years. And I remember thinking, I was like, I bet they get it this year. So this is just from the eye test. So take this for what it's worth. But I think the Bills at 8.5 to 1. I think they're. There's a good chance they're going to be there, or you're getting, you said 9 to 1 at FanDuel. So out of those 5, I'd go with the Bills. I think Eagles. I think they're going to be good again, but I don't know. I think they're going to have a little, maybe a little, not Super Bowl hangover since they didn't win, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I would say out of those 5, I like the Bills there.
I like your answer. It was Bills or Bengals for me. And it's funny. Today while I was eating dinner, I was looking on Twitter and some guy I follow, I don't know why I follow him, and he follows me. So I don't know why, may have to unfollow this guy, but
was it me? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't even, I forget his name, but he tweeted out, he's like, the Bills and Dolphins are not good teams, so the Jets should win the division easily if they get Rodgers. And wait, what? What is going on here? I like that strategy of going with teams that people are kind of a little sour, good teams that people are a little sour on. The Bills
perceived to have. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Perceived to have a down year. How many people said that last year about the Kansas City Chiefs, and look what happened? So that's. That's the same sort of sentiment.
That's perfect example. They were 12 to 1 last year at the sportsbook, and I remember I was like, "Man, Chiefs 12 to 1 looks good, but I don't know. Without Tyreek Hill, do they have any weapons?" And I really regret not getting 12 to 1. I eventually did hedge it. I think it was 3.75 to 1 or something, 3.25 to 1. But still, I think that's a perfect example. What people remember about the Bills is that they lost right away in the playoffs. Not right away, but they beat the Dolphins. But they almost lost to the Dolphins in the first round with Skylar Thompson playing, and then they lost to the Bengals in what was a really ugly game for them. But you have to remember 2 things though. First, they lost Von Miller on Thanksgiving. That was a huge loss for them. They couldn't get to the quarterback nearly as well without him. They had a lot of injuries too in the secondary. Another thing was they had just seen that DeMar Hamlin situation happen. So they must have been demoralized, so I wouldn't hold it against them like what happened at the end of the year.
Is Hamlin going to play again?
They said they haven't said so. I know he's trying to play. He needs to get cleared and stuff. Hopefully, it'd be nice if he could come back. But as for now, he hasn't been cleared. So, I'm
one. And Walt, you've known me for a long time, but for those who aren't used to my picking stuff, I sometimes I tend to read narratives more than, maybe sometimes more than I should. But imagine that narrative. Hamlin comes back. They won the Super Bowl. Hey, what's up, BJ? Bills are better under the radar. 2 moves. Yeah, no, I think so too. I definitely like him, and I know BJ's a big Bills fan. Now I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. What were we?
You were you like to bet on situations.
Talking about the narrative. Yeah, what an awesome story that would be too. If he came back and they won the Super. And they had the talent to do it. It's not like it would be like a miracle. But imagine too if he comes back and plays, how pumped up that team's going to be, how pumped up he is, the whole season to come back and make a statement. In addition to all the incredible talent that they have, I think it's a good play.
Yeah, I do too. I like that a lot. I like the Bengals too. I think you can make a case for both of them as to which team is the best team. in the NFL. The Chiefs as well, like obviously, but like I said, I think they might have they might be a little lackadaisical this year, just coming off the Super Bowl win. So I think it's going to be either the Bills or the Bengals. And as a hedge, I like getting an AFC team because you're going to get more value in the NFC because it's such an easier conference. So we talked about how much we like the Lions. The Falcons are a good long shot. And to answer, I guess to answer a question that we had about the Giants in 2008, we just popped it up on the screen. Giants won the Super Bowl in 2008. What were the odds? I can't remember what the odds were, but they were like double-digit underdogs in the Super Bowl.
14, I think. 13.
Right. So yeah, something like that. So they must have been long shots. I don't know if any book still has those old numbers, but it's tough to find that like a comparison. But if I had to, I think like that Giants team had a great defensive line, and they got so much pressure on the quarterback. So if you're looking for a team like that, I think the Steelers are a good comparison, just because with TJ Watt on the field, they can get so much pressure on the quarterback, and they're long shots at 60-1.
I really like that question. That I'd love to know too, because the Giants are the only team, at least then, I don't think it's happened since, to start out 0-2 and still win the Super Bowl. I remember the late great Jared Lorenzen came in that second game, I believe, that they lost. I mean, it was looking bad, but then they turned it. Remember that game? Remember they sacked Donovan McNabb like 17 times. I think it was like 7 though. That was crazy. That defense. I mean, O.C. Umenyiora, Michael Strahan, man, they had a really great team. I mean, that's the funny thing about, and the Steelers have done it too historically. It's like sometimes you watch like those Giants teams that won the Super Bowl. It's like they can't gain a freaking yard, and like then you turn around and they're winning the damn Super Bowl. It's like, what? Yeah. So I think that's I mean, maybe you could even make the argument for the Giants now in a way for that. But I agree. I think maybe the Steelers are a little bit closer to that team. But the Giants, I think are on the come up, and maybe I'm biased because, I mean, Daniel Jones and Eli Manning are like clones of each other in a way.
I know,
almost. So maybe that's part of my bias here. But great question, though.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the NBA. So I'm sure we'll have different odds as well. On FanDuel, at least the Bucks are favorites at plus 240, then the Celtics plus 360, then the Suns at plus 500. I feel like it's tougher to find a long shot in the NBA. Although, I mean, it is possible. We've seen a couple of weird teams win the championship over the years. Like the Raptors might come to mind a few years ago. I remember they barely beat the Sixers when the Sixers had Butler, and then they crushed the Warriors in the finals. I don't know what they were, but I imagine they were definitely like probably 10-1 or better. So what stands out to you in the NBA here?
Oh, I got a couple long shots for you. So
okay, nice.
First off, I want to share this story. My friend, same guy, Lou, he showed me this video. Someone showed their ticket. It was a TikTok video. They bet $30 on the Sacramento Kings to win their division. 30 paid 12,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what the ticket said. I'm assuming it wasn't photoshopped or anything, but that sounds about right. I mean, the Kings have been. I mean, I don't think the Kings have been relevant relevant to the point where they could like be a legit contender since they got robbed back in 2002 against the Lakers.
Yeah,
remember that? Man, what a series that was. But that's another topic for another day. I like and I know I'm sure some people are going to be like, "Are you crazy?" Kings to win the West, 25-1. Now here's why I like it. Obviously, like I think the West is weak. They only have a couple of, as things stand right now, like a couple of 50-game winners. I think it's just the Nuggets and the Grizzlies are the only teams in the West that have 50 wins or more. The Kings, I think, have a very balanced attack. Obviously, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, but like guys like Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, like they're and Kevin Huerter too. I mean, they have a balanced attack, I think, and I don't mean what I'm about to say quite literally, but they remind me of the 08-09 Magic a little bit. A completely different team, of course, but the Magic. Now I'm biased because I'm a lifelong Magic fan, but I'll never forget that year when they played LeBron and the Cavs in Eastern Conference Finals. Charles Barkley was like, "I think the Magic are going to win this series," and they're like, "What?" He's like, "They just have a much more balanced attack." And they just, I don't know. The Kings have a lot of solid players. Like, I think, if you get them at 25-1 on DraftKings to win the West, I mean, I feel like this is a situation, anything could happen. They get swept out of the first round, maybe, but probably not. I don't think. If they can catch lightning in a bottle, really, like, I look at it like this. You need to win like one playoff series, like the second round. Maybe beat a team that you weren't supposed to. Now, all of a sudden, you're in like the 08-09 Magic are a perfect example. They played the defending champion Celtics in the second round. I wasn't sure they were even going to get out of that, and they did. And now it's like they caught lightning in a bottle, sort of. And then now they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they ended up going to the finals. And like, I could see the Kings doing that because I feel like they have a pretty balanced attack. At 25-1, I don't know. I think that those are decent odds. Admittedly, they're a team that I've only studied on the stat sheet more than like watched. But yeah, I thought at the beginning of the season, like, they'll fade away. They're just like kind of smoke and mirrors here, but they're still around. So, do you have any opinion on the Kings at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty impressed with them. They've been the healthiest team in the league so far. I'll say that. But I think you look the rest of the West. I think the only team I'm scared of is the Suns, and they're still gonna have to gel with Kevin Durant there.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a lot of their the core players, like Mikal Bridges, who's been awesome since he joined the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
And then so like the Suns still would scare me though, even though they have that flaw. And then you look at you go down the odds, like the Nuggets are 9.5-1. I know they have Jokic obviously and Murray, but they just don't scare me. I feel like they just never live up to expectations in the playoffs. They're like the Western Conference version of the Sixers. Like people always think they're going to do well and they'll just lose in the second round. I feel like that's going to be their fate again. The Warriors have. Yeah, the Warriors have the Andrew Wiggins situation. He's been out. It's just like, the Warriors can just get hot and shoot you out of a series, but I don't know. This team just hasn't been the same defensively, and I think that I think they might disappoint. And then you have the Grizzlies. Ja Morant is, who knows what's going on in his head. You have the Clippers, who may not have Paul George healthy. And then you have the Lakers, who, LeBron is like 1 billion years old at this rate. And like, who knows if he can keep it going. And I don't like the Lakers overall. And then we get to the Kings. So I don't know what they are to win the finals on DraftKings, but they're 65-1 on FanDuel. And that seems like an outrageous number. I think the Kings are talented. Gun to my head, I say the Suns win the West, but 65-1 is a crazy number. I personally would have made this closer to what the Lakers are at 36-1. So I really like the value.
Yeah, Kings are 70-1 on DraftKings.
Wow. There you go.
The Lakers are 16-1 to win the finals, and the Kings are 70-1. Like,
so the Lakers are 36-1 on FanDuel. That's a crazy discrepancy.
What?
Yeah.
That's absurd. I mean, what do I know? I'm just an idiot. So, but I mean, come on. The disparity there is out freaking rageous.
Yeah.
Sorry to fly off the handle here, but that's ridiculous. What do you have the Mavericks at to win? Just curious, to win the finals.
Are they even listed? I'm not. They aren't.
350-1 on DraftKings.
350-1. They aren't listed on FanDuel, so I guess they don't think because the Thunder are winning right now. They pretty much have the game locked up against Utah. So I don't think and the Thunder had the tiebreaker over the Mavericks. Would that mean that Dallas is eliminated? They might be close to being eliminated, so that's why they're not listed.
Yeah, no, that's true. The Clippers are a team too out west where it's like
I can't go with the Clippers. Like Paul George sucks. I can't.
Yeah, Westbrook was not that big. We were talking terrible about this earlier. Yeah, that was not that. I mean, yeah, years ago, sure, but
he can't play. He doesn't play defense, so
yeah.
That's just a big issue. A number that stands out to me is Cleveland at 42-1. They have such a great defense. They have Donovan Mitchell. I like him a lot. Garrett Garland. They've Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They have 4 really good players. They've Karis LeVert as a 5th option. I think this team has a lot of talent. Like the problem is like the Bucks and Celtics are really good, but I don't know. I mean, I look at the Sixers at 8.5-1 and Cleveland at 42-1. I don't think there is that much of a discrepancy between the two teams. I think they're pretty close to each other, to be honest. And I say that as someone who's been rooting for the Sixers since I was 8 years old. I think like I look at these two teams, like if you're going to make the Sixers 8.5-1, which I think that's incorrect. I think they should be like 16-1 or 18-1. I think Cleveland should be like 22-1 or 20-1. I think 42-1 is wrong. Now, I don't think it's going to win because, like I said, I think the Bucks or Celtics come out of the East. But I think out of all the other non-Kings teams, I think this is the best value.
Yeah, no, I like it too. And that kind of segues nicely into another one I wanted to bring up because I'll tell you what, I think, as things stand now, if the playoffs started today, it would be the Cavs and Knicks in the first series. I think that has a potential to be the best first round series this year. The Knicks, and which is the reason I said segues because I want to bring up the Knicks. I'm just surprised. Again, well, I agree with you about it's probably going to be the Bucks or the Celtics most likely coming out. The Knicks are 101 to win the championship, and they are 35-1 to win the East. Jalen Brunson is, I know he was dealing with some injuries for a little bit there. He's back. That's another team, obviously with RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. But like they've got a decent, they have some good role players too. Quickly, Grimes, Reddish, Mitchell Robinson. If he can, he's good on the boards. Again, not that'll be a good series. I guess I was just surprised to see it so high. So I don't know that I would necessarily take the Kings this season, but we were talking about teams on the come up. I think they're a team on the come up. Kind of that's a team to keep on your radar. I think. I have a hard time seeing them get out. At 100-1, winning the championship. Obviously, a lot would have to happen. But the conference at 35-1. I mean, if they come out of, if they can come out of that first round series, against Cleveland, which is the most likely matchup, kind of similar to what I said. I think that series could easily go 7 games if they can catch lightning in a bottle and like I said, win one series, find a way to beat. I always forget. Does NBA reseed or is it like would they play the Bucks as the 5 seed? Is it lowest seed? I always forget.
No, the NHL does that. I don't think the NBA does.
Okay.
I mean, they used to. They didn't used to. I don't know if they changed the rules within the past couple of years, but they didn't before.
So let's say that, and somebody might know better than me and be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, but if they end up playing like the Sixers in the second round, you know what I mean? Like, remember when the Hawks beat the Sixers the year the Bucks won it? And
I can tell you for sure the Sixers are losing the second round. I guarantee you.
I mean. Now, the only thing about the Sixers is this is like the year for all the years, like the last 3 years or so, where there have been like, this is their year, this is the year, out in the second round, out in the second round, out in the second round. Now no one's talking about them. That's the only thing I would say is going for the Sixers is that they're flying under the radar a little more.
Yeah, but they still have James Harden who's going to choke in the playoffs. Like,
yeah, and I completely agree. That's the only argument I have for the Sixers. But I'm telling you, like, if the Knicks could win that, and then like they played the Sixers, and once again, I'm not sure if I've got the seeding right. Who knows what it will come out like? But if they got the Sixers second round, I don't know. At 35-1, man. I mean, remember when the Knicks made the finals in '99 as the 8th seed? That was a strike-shortened season.
I'm actually going to pull up the standings. I think the Knicks and Cavs are 4-5, aren't they?
Yeah. Cavs are 4 right now, and Knicks are 5. So they would play each other in the first round. That's going to be a good series.
Right. So yeah, the winner of that will play Milwaukee in the second round.
Okay. All right,
so
well,
it's still tough.
Different story then. Thank you for pulling that up.
Yeah. I mean, playing the Bucks is tough. Like that's like why I'm not in love with the Cavs either. Like even though that number is outrageous, I think you're right about the Knicks too. Like they shouldn't really be 100-1. And like you never know. Like what if Giannis gets hurt?
I was just gonna say, yeah. What if
like
something
remember
happens?
like well like I'll defend the Sixers. You know I'm like their biggest critic, even though I'm a fan. I'll defend the Sixers that one year they lost to Atlanta in the second round. Joel Embiid got hurt. He hurt his knee in the first round against Washington, and he kept playing. Like he played through the injury, so like he wasn't quite himself. And then like they had to rely on Ben Simmons a lot more, and he really choked. Like that was one of the biggest choke jobs ever. So like if Embiid didn't get hurt in the first round, I think the Sixers would have beaten Atlanta in that playoff series, and then maybe they lose to Milwaukee, but still, I think that you know, like you never know, like a player can go down in an instant. Giannis can get hurt in the first round of the playoffs, and then suddenly, if you have the Knicks at 100-1 or Cavs at 42-1, that's looking fantastic. So I think even though it looks bleak for them in the second round right now, it may not 3 or 4 weeks from now, like when things look a lot different.
Yeah, remember 2011, 2012 when Derrick Rose got hurt on the Bulls? They were the 1 seed. The Sixers ended up winning, and they took the Celtics to 7 games.
I remember watching that. I think Game 7 in a bar. It was that was a crazy summer.
Yeah,
so.
that was really that was fun watching the Sixers too that year. They I mean, obviously, I mean they weren't going to win that series if Derrick Rose was in prime Derrick Rose, I might add. But then to take the Celtics to 7 games in the second round, I had a lot of fun watching them.
Yeah, like I said, that was a wild summer. My then girlfriend's dad threatened to kill me. It was a fun time. It was yeah. I wrote that story up in my book, which is actually in the description too. Anything else in the NBA before we move on?
Those are like the 2 long shots or longer shots that I liked. Other than that, it's tough. Like, I mean, I like the Suns. I mean, I think they have the most talent, but that doesn't always translate. And yeah, but like the thing about like the Suns, it's like, are they trying that hard yet? You know what I mean? Like, think about the time, like when LeBron was on the Cavs and they were like the 3 or 4 seed and still made it to the finals. Like I always thought, like, are they like not turning it on yet? Like, are the Suns not gelling 100% yet, or they're just not, you know, kicking into high gear? So, but yeah, that's all I have for the NBA. I think there's value there with the Kings, and then the Knicks Cavs. That'll be a good series. So you know, things would have to happen, but there might be some value in those two in the East.
So, as to quote Kenny, gun to your head, and someone with a gun into your head said you have to bet $1 on a team to win the championship, or I guess $1.50 now with inflation. Which you think the Suns would win? Like if you had to bet one team, like regardless of the odds. Okay, the Bucks. Okay,
I take the Bucks hands down. Man, I'll tell you what. 2 seasons ago, when that was, because I never really got into futures until like a couple seasons ago. And that was the first Bucks to win the East was the first that year they won the championship. That was the first futures bet I ever hit. I was pretty new to futures at the time, if you can believe that. But and last season, I believe wasn't Middleton injured a little bit? I believe in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Man, they're just so tough. They're just so tough. I mean, as long as they stay healthy. I mean, that Celtics team is really good too, obviously, but Milwaukee's going to be tough to beat. So, gun to my head, I'm taking the Bucks to win it again this season.
Yeah, I personally don't know why Giannis is not MVP. You know, like Embiid's going to win it. I think he's like minus 700 or something. I want to pull that up very quickly. He is he's minus 1,000 now. Giannis is plus 1,200. If I had a vote, I think it would be Giannis because like Middleton, again, he's been injured for most of the year. He was out for a while. Then he came back. He was on a minutes restriction. Whereas like Embiid has James Harden to lean on. And I just made fun of Harden choking in the playoffs. But he's great in the regular season. Like Giannis, I guess like Drew Holiday was his number 2, but still like, I don't know. I feel like Giannis is more important to the Bucks than Embiid is to the Sixers. I don't know. I mean, they're both super important to their teams, obviously, but right. I think I don't know. I would have voted for Giannis to win MVP.
I would tend to agree there. I mean, maybe they're going to give it to Embiid because I just want to spread it around a little bit. Who knows? But
yeah. All right, let's go on the baseball. So baseball and hockey, you're gonna know a lot more than I would. In fact, I haven't watched baseball since I retired from it. When was that? Like 10 years ago.
What did you say? Since you
So
retired from Little League?
since I retired from from baseball.
I was like retired from Little League 10 years ago.
That'd be weird. Yeah, no.
Kenny, they had a ringer. You're the ringer on the team.
Kenny's gonna have a good laugh because I always joke that like I retired from baseball. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't watch it anymore. I'm retired." I haven't watched it in like a decade. I'm like kind of familiar with a couple things here. Like I know the Phillies started off poorly. I don't know if that's still the case. But you guide me and you tell me what you like because I have no clue here.
Yeah, yeah, you're good. You know, I actually, admittedly, I mean, the season just started last week. I haven't watched a single game, and I'm hesitant to because of this new pitch clock. And I know people are going to have their opinions on it. Give it a try, Quacky. Yeah, okay. You know, I just think with the pitch clock, it's like, okay, if the goal is to get new viewers who didn't watch baseball because it's too long, I feel, and this is just my opinion, you're alienating so many of the true fans to get very little in return. I think it's, I don't care. I think it's stupid. You know, I got something from ESPN, like a push notification. It's like Shohei Ohtani is the first person to strike out with on a pitch clock violation as a pitcher and a batter. It's like, oh, no kidding. Like, who else would it be? He's the only freaking two-way player, you idiots. I mean, I guess if you had like a blowout game and you brought somebody, but I don't know. It's just like, you know what? If I was, sorry, quick aside here. If I was, I can't remember who it was on the Red Sox. Was it Martin? No, I can't remember who it was on the Red Sox because I got the push notifications. It was the first player to strike out on the pitch clock violation. I would have done it on purpose. That way I'd always be remembered, you know. It's like to be the first one to do it.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah. But Walter, I came on your podcast the first time I was on. I think it was like July or August of last year, talking about the Orioles, and I'm here talking about them again.
Nice.
I love the Orioles to win the American League at 45-1, and I also like them to make the playoffs at plus 390. Let me tell you something about the Orioles, and the Orioles have been like the Lions of baseball for the better part of like the last decade. I got them like right before the All-Star break at 15-1 to make the playoffs last season, and then they won like 10 in a row. I was like, let's go. They missed the playoffs by like 3 or 4 games maybe. But look, their problem was pitching last year. If they just had decent pitching, I think they would have made it. And I think that's exactly what they got. You know, they made some nice additions in Cole Irvin and Kyle Gibson, not names that are going to, you know, light up the stat sheet necessarily, but they needed better pitching, and that's what they got. They have some guys that are playing, you know, some guys that have more experience under their belt. Austin Voth, Tyler Wells, he didn't do as well last year, but I think he's another pitcher that has potential. But Adley Rutschman, who their second-year catcher, I think he was like 4th or 5th to win MVP with the odds. He's like 14-1. He started. I remember first game of the season, he went 5 for 5. But like guys like Jorge Mateo, Urias Hayes, Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, like this lineup is stacked. I can't believe that. And look, they play in arguably the toughest division in baseball. You've got the Rays who are 6-0 going into today at least. The Rays are good. Yankees obviously. Blue Jays are going to be tough, and the Red Sox at it. You know, I would say without a doubt that's the toughest division in baseball. But I think what they needed was an improvement in pitching. They got some improvement, and at 45-1, I mean, especially to make the playoffs at plus 390. Ooh, I really love it. I really love it. You know, and especially if they can do it in that division, I think they have a chance to make some noise. I think there's tons of value. This is a team on the come up. I watched more of their games last season than any other team, so I feel very confident about the Orioles here as a team that's one of the longer shots. So,
well, what are they to win the World Series? They are 120-1 on FanDuel.
Let me see here, 90-1.
Okay, wow. So that's a big discrepancy. I wonder if you can get. So what were they to win the AL?
45-1.
They're also 45-1 on FanDuel. I don't know if there's something to make the playoffs, but
what the hell is the deal with the 90 to 1? You said 120 to 1 to win the World Series?
Yeah.
That's quite. I mean,
that seems great.
Yeah, that's quite a disparity. That's interesting. Well, if you want to bet on the World Series, do it on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think I will be placing a bet on that. Hopefully, it comes to fruition, and I'll buy you a few drinks next time we're hanging out.
Soda, of course.
Yes, of course, soda.
But no, I think for the talent they have, that is such a high number. It's such a high number. So the value is definitely there. I mean, Phillies too. Especially once Harper comes back, they've been off to a slow start. I would stay away from the Mets. I don't know what it is with the Mets. Sorry, Mets fans, but it's like, look, like Lindor, like you gave him like all that money. It's like, I think he's very good, but he's like not that much money good. And like, I mean, the whole thing with Correa didn't come through. You're going to pay him all that money. It's like, he's good, but like, I don't know. I don't see the Mets being as good as they were last season. Just one idiot's opinion, but yeah, I really like I really like the Orioles as like a long shot play. I think there's a ton of value there. So,
is there anything in the mid range, like the 20s, 30s, even 40 to 1s? Like the one team that stands out is the Cardinals at 22 to 1. Not that I know anything about them this year, but like it seems like the Cardinals are always in the mix because like they're run extremely well, and they always like tend to be better than people think. Or at least like they're better until people realize, oh, the Cardinals are really good, and then that's kind of like when they meet expectations. But like when people kind of forget about them, it seems like they're good. But maybe that's from when I was not retired from baseball.
Yeah, I mean they've got some great people, and I agree. They're always like in the mix. They're a team that sneaks up on you, and they're very well run. They're not off to a good start, but I mean, it's six games in. It means absolutely nothing. So I would grab, if you're interested in the Cardinals, I'd grab them now while they're in last place at 2-4. But with Goldschmidt and Arenado, both of them were MVP candidates last season. They did lose Yadier Molina, who's one of the greatest catchers of all time. But they do have a lot of young pieces on that team that at the end of last season seem to come together. So I mean, I definitely think there's value there as well. I'm seeing. Hang on, let me see. What did you say you're getting up to win the World Series?
22 to 1.
Wow, they're 17 to 1 on DraftKings.
FanDuel with the better pricing. Not always, but yeah.
It's a weird. I don't know. Two teams that I like, and they faced each other in the playoffs last season. The Mariners and the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are a team. I mean, what's so funny about the Blue Jays? They've got Kevin Biggio, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. All on the same team. I watched all three of their dads play growing up, and all three of their dads were like, Dante Bichette was very good. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite players, but like Craig Biggio and Vladimir Guerrero Sr. is one of my favorite players of all time. It's so cool to see them all on the same team. But yeah, like they're a team where I'm kind of like, all right, like any season now, like they're really going to break out. They really got hosed last year against the Mariners. So I think there's probably some value there. I've heard some people buzzing about the Brewers. I see them at 20 to 1. Honestly, I don't know a lot about their team. But I've heard a couple murmurs about that, or about them rather. So, but I don't know. I love the Orioles. I think, I also think like the Yankees sooner or later. I mean, they're plus 750 on DraftKings to win it all. Sooner or later, they're going to break through. They've made the ALCS like 18,000 years in a row now. I mean, and they keep losing to the Astros, but kind of like you were talking about, like gun to your head. I would probably take. I think the Yankees this Yankees team reminds me of the Washington Capitals. Like the Capitals were good with Ovechkin for so many years, and I remember thinking, but they used to always get like the Sixers. They would get knocked out second round like every year. They couldn't even make it to the conference final. Then finally in the 17-18 season, they won. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, you know what? That team has so much talent. Sooner or later it's going to happen. Sooner or later it's going to happen. And I feel that way about this version of the Yankees team. So, just one idiot's opinion.
Okay. I was just about to ask you like who you like to win the World Series. So you said Yankees are plus 750 on DraftKings. They're plus 850 on FanDuel. So a little bit more value. Not that like 750 to 850 is a huge difference, but it's still like, if you're hedging, it is important to get the best number. Okay.
The Cleveland parent and or guardians, they're 20-1. They're 20-1. They're a team. They really came together at the end of last season, but they do go through stretches of not being able to score. Last season at least. So, but 20-1, that's not terrible. I mean,
they're 25. They're 25-1 here. So,
geez, you like baseball? Go on FanDuel. That's what we've learned from this.
Yeah, for sure. Or at least like right now, like maybe they'll change it overnight. So if you're watching like right now or Friday morning, I definitely would hop on that. All right, let's get to the NHL. It's another sport where I'm not gonna know very much. I know more here than I do MLB, but still, my opinions are not going to be nearly as informed as yours. So, who do you like here in the NHL?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's hard to, I'll start out with the obvious choice, which is the Boston Bruins. Holy smokes, man! This is the most dominant team I have seen in some time, and anything I'm about to say about the Bruins is not going to come as a surprise to anyone who follows hockey. They've been mowing down the competition all season, and just when you think they're going to have like a downswing, like nope. They come back. The Penguins, I remember I took the Penguins as a 3-unit play like months ago against the Bruins. And I read the line. I mean, I think it was right side, wrong outcome. Penguins blew a 3-goal lead in like less than a period. I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. And then just the other day, the Penguins, well, they didn't blow it, but they had a chance to beat them. The Bruins will not go away. They will not go away. So they're plus 200 to win the East and plus 380 to win the Stanley Cup. I think plus 380 is pretty good. I thought it would be closer to like plus 250-ish. Obviously, they're the heavy favorite. But you know what? Back in 2018, 2019, when the Tampa Bay Lightning were incredibly dominant, they were having one of the best seasons of all time as far as points go, and they got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets, the 8 seed in the first round. I was shocked. So that's the thing about hockey, like as opposed to like basketball, like once that goalie gets hot, if the goalie gets hot at the right time, that's the X factor, and an 8 seed can win. It happens more often than you think. I remember in the 05-06 season, it was the year the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup against the Oilers in the West in the first round. 5, 6, 7, and 8 all won in the first round. So yeah, and then the Oilers were the 8 seed and went to the Stanley Cup Finals. But it's really hard to ignore the Bruins. Obviously, anything can happen, but I have not seen them look. Yeah, they've lost games against teams that were bad and stuff, but like, I haven't at any point. Every good team seems to have like a little bit of a lull. I haven't seen it yet. So, plus 380 to win the Stanley Cup. I thought that was going to, like I said, closer to 250. So I think that's the most popular one, popular play. I really like the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, this is a team. They're not lighting up the sheet as far as their player. They don't have like a go-to. They don't have like a Connor McDavid type that's going to lead the way. I think they only have like 4 players with like 50 points or more, maybe, which isn't going to knock your socks off. But they've got some really good pieces. They got Brett Burns. I love Sebastian Aho. They've got some depth at goaltending with Frederik Andersen and Ranta, and their attack is really balanced. And they already have over 100 points. So, I mean, the Bruins are definitely, the favorite and probably will come out of the East. But I like the Hurricanes 6-1 to come out of the East and 10-1 to win the Cup. I think if they can. I think the East is gonna win the Stanley Cup this year. So if the Hurricanes can somehow get out of the East, if they can beat the Bruins if they end up facing them, I really like them at 10-1 to win the Cup.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, like, like you mentioned a hot goalie, and like they tend to dominate in the playoffs. Like you get an unstoppable goalie, you get a team that's probably going to win. Like, is there a longer shot that like you're like, okay, this team's not that good, but man, this goalie could really catch fire, and they're going to be tough to beat because he's not going to allow any goals.
Glad you said that. So
they're totally on plan. So
yeah, really. We've known each other for what? We met in 2004, so we're pretty familiar with each other. So
yep.
The Kraken, the Seattle Kraken, now their goaltending has been suspect a bit this year, but they have a lot of good pieces, and especially if they end up matching up with, like they've got Martin Jones and Philip Grubauer, who have not been spectacular, but I'm telling you what, if one of them if they can catch fire, Jones is the primary goalie, I believe. If he can get hot, that team can make some noise, especially if they end up playing the Avalanche in the first round. Now, I know what people are thinking. Oh, you think they're going to beat the defending Stanley Cup Finals winners? Yes, I think they could. I definitely think they could. I mean, Colorado, obviously they're all sorts of talented and all sorts of experienced. But look, then they've turned it on at the end of the season, but they have looked vulnerable this year. And anyone, I'm sorry, like if you think that they haven't, you're not watching the same game. They've looked very vulnerable this year. And I think the Kraken to win the West 14-1, if they can get some improved goalie play from Jones and Grubauer, I think that, it's funny that BJ, my friend who was typing in there, he and I, we hate the Kraken because it's like we always seem so maybe you shouldn't take my advice because they always seem to do the opposite of like what me and BJ think. So, but I think at 14-1, they have a pretty good shot. And it depends who they get in the first round. Like I think they could beat a team like Colorado. Not saying they will, but they definitely have a shot. So that's a team that I think could maybe turn it on and turn some heads. Winnipeg is a team that they look so strong in the beginning, and they have had a meltdown of epic proportions. They're clinging to the 8 seed right now, to the last seed. But if Halibut could turn it on and they get in there, maybe they could make some noise. That's a big if. But it's crazy because the Jets looked so good all like the first half of the season. They looked amazing. Like I would say, they had the best record in the West for some time, and now they're barely clinging onto a playoff spot. So
I was like, the Jets were one of the two teams I was going to ask you about with Halibut and the Lightning with Vasilevsky. Like they seem to be like two of the better goalies in the NHL. Like, so I like that you brought up Winnipeg. Like that's the team I would target because like Halibut like can really get going in the playoffs. Like I know like Winnipeg struggling, like you said, they may not even make the playoffs, but if they get to an 8 seed could easily win in the NHL, unlike the NBA. Even it's happened in the NBA, but more frequently in the NHL. So Winnipeg's the team I would be looking at, like personally, just gauging on goalies. What about Tampa? Do they have a chance to make a run at 14-1?
Oh, sure. I think they do, but and especially with all the experience that they have. But gosh, you just got so many tough teams in there. The Devils are good. The Maple Leafs are really good. I'm not going to mention the Bruins because that's the obvious. They're obviously the toughest team in the East. But you've got the Leafs, the Devils, the Hurricanes, the Rangers. That the East is so strong. But the Lightning have so much experience. And, and the Maple Leafs are a team. They've got a ton of good pieces. And I love their goalie. Their goalie is former Penguins goalie Matt Murray, who I love. He won 2 cups with the Penguins. But the Maple Leafs are a team, and sorry, Toronto fans, I love you, Toronto, but I know that I know you're in a lot of pain with the struggles that the Leafs have had in the playoffs. But they're kind of like the Cowboys of the NHL. Like they can't win. How many playoff series or with the comparison being playoff games for the Cowboys. They always seem to exit early. So it's kind of one of those things. I love the Leafs, but I want to see them do something first, sort of thing. So, Leafs, Devils, Hurricanes, Lightning, they're all really, really strong teams. I'm really excited to watch the Eastern Conference playoffs. If the winner comes out of the West this season, I'll be surprised. I'll be very surprised. Sorry, I know I'm really chomping at the bit here, but I've got another one for you, and I know I'm biased because I'm a Penguins fan.
Please go ahead.
The Penguins are 70-1 to win the Stanley Cup. They're currently like 1 point out of the playoffs with 3 games to go. So you might want to wait until see if they qualify. If they make it, they're either going to play the Bruins or the Hurricanes now, which kind of contradicts everything I just said. But if you're feeling quacky, which I often am, Look, the Penguins. I mean, yeah, they're getting older. Crosby, Malkin. Well, not Gensel, but they have the talent. So that's a team. Like, am I saying it's going to happen? No, but do they have the talent to do it? Yeah, but again, the East is very strong. So if you're feeling extra quacky, and the Penguins make the playoffs, maybe give it a shot. But again, it's so funny. Like, as I'm talking about this, it's tough because I'm like, man, the Devils are really good too, and the Rangers. They just got Patrick Kane from Chicago. They're going all in. It seems. Any of those teams could come out of the East, but they're gonna have to go through Boston, and that's gonna be tough. So,
well, yeah, I mean, just I don't have to tell you this, but like, remember, this is hockey. This is a sport where seeds 1 through 4 all lost. Like teams could look invincible in the regular season, and I know this from being a Flyers fan as a kid. Like that team with the Legion of Doom looks so good at times. That was like, as a kid, I was like, man, how's this team lose? Like, they're gonna win, and then like they would lose in the second round to the Devils every year, or they lost one year to the Maple Leafs. Like it always seems to happen that way. And like the playoff hockey is so much different than regular season hockey. Like, yeah, Bruins could definitely win it for sure, but like this is a sport where I would not bet the Bruins at all. Like I talked about how like hedge with one of the favorites in both NBA and NFL. Like this is like I would not do that in hockey because like there's so much more variance. So I personally would take Flyers with not the Philadelphia Flyers, Flyers with an eye, with like some of these like 45-1 teams like Winnipeg, or you brought up Seattle. Just like teams in the West that could get to the finals, and then you hedge, I guess, with the team that comes out of the East. Because like again, like I know you said like you expect the East to win, but it is hockey, and if Halibut gets super hot for Winnipeg, like suddenly they're gonna look great. You talked about Seattle, how they have a chance because they have a lot of talent. Like it's just like it's so much variance in hockey that didn't like Las Vegas go to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year? Like
they sure did.
Like anything can happen in hockey. So like that's what makes playoff hockey so much fun as opposed to the regular season, which is so long. So
yeah. And I'll tell you this season, I would say I'm most torn because like I'm looking down the list here because now I'm about to like, I don't want to overdo it here, but there's so many teams I feel like I could make a case for. Like, man, I love the Oilers with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I mean, in my opinion, that's the best. I think that's like the best 1-2, and arguably the best 1-2 in hockey. These guys are freaking unstoppable. They need to shore up their goaltending a little bit, but they've got the pieces. The Minnesota Wild, they're another team that I really like. They've got some great pieces. They got Marc-Andre Fleury, a former Penguin, who I really love. They're what are they to win the Wild are 22-1 to win the Cup. They could easily come out of the West.
Yeah.
And now you're in a great. Actually, now that I'm talking myself into the Wild, 22-1. I mean, anyone could come out of the West. I think the Golden Knights, Vegas. We were just talking about Vegas. They look good at the start of the season. They're still really awesome. But they were the team mowing down and they still are, but not. They're not as good. They're still incredibly good, but Dallas, the Stars look good. The Kings are hanging around too. I mean, I shouldn't say hanging around. They have over 100 points. They're having a great season. It's tough. It's tough, man. I'm really excited for this year's hockey playoffs. A lot could happen, and maybe you're right. Like I think maybe this is a year to grab a team that has some longer odds. Because I mean, really, I think anything can happen. With obviously the Bruins being the big favorite, anything could happen. I think so. Yeah,
well, didn't the Blues come out of nowhere because they got a new goalie? And I remember someone bet them like an outrageous number.
Yeah, someone was in Vegas for a conference, like a work conference, and I think he put like when the Blues were in last place. He put 400 on the Blues to win the Stanley Cup. I think he won like $250,000 or something.
That's pretty sweet.
That's unbelievable.
That's insane. Well, hopefully we get one of those bets one of these years. Yeah. So, all right, man. Anything else to add before we sign off?
If I can just plug a couple things real quick.
Oh, please. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So give me a follow on TikTok and Twitter. QuackyTakesWithTommy. I used to do a pick every day. Doing them less often. I'm now a live poker streamer with Lucky Stars Entertainment on the Poker Bros app. I stream a lot. It's been a lot of fun. I've met some great people. In fact, Nick, who I do the podcast with, he just won a tournament and won $45,000.
Wow,
so
congrats.
yeah, and he's a former pro. Like, he used to pay taxes on his winnings, so he's legit. But yeah, so if you're interested in checking out the streams, it's just me ranting and playing poker, which people like the quacky ramblings, I think. And you can check my bio if you're interested in signing up for yourself. But yeah, check out my pages, Quacky Takes with Tommy on TikTok and Twitter.
Yeah, definitely check out Quacky Takes with Tommy on Twitter. When he posts pics, they're usually really good. But when he texts me, I'm like, yes, I get a good pick in. I feel like they hit like 80% of the time, which is like awesome. So yeah, definitely follow Tom on Twitter, and you can visit walterfootball.com. We have tons of content as usual. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store and my books too, where you can read about my crazy girlfriend's my crazy girlfriend's crazy dad. So you could definitely check that out there.
Rogers Johnson.
Right. Right. So yeah, thanks Tom for coming on. Hopefully we'll have you on. Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Well, hopefully we'll have you on soon again, probably I guess after the draft, we'll have we'll be closer and we'll know more about the NFL teams, like once the draft is finalized, like where those teams stand, and I'm sure some of the odds will change. So definitely. So thanks again. Thanks for everyone listening and posting the comments, and I will talk to you on Monday.